The Carolina Panthers just walked into their own stadium and quietly flipped the whole NFC South, and most people still have not processed what that means. One week you saw them trying to shake off that gut punch in New Orleans. The next they are leaving Bank of America Stadium with a win over Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, sitting at 8-7 and holding the inside lane to a home playoff game. That did not feel like a lucky December escape. It felt like the moment a team that everyone called a project looked around and decided they were done waiting for next year. Inside that building, it is not about hope anymore. It is about expectation, about finishing drives, closing games, and making other teams feel the pressure that used to sit on Carolina all season long. The wild part is how far public talk still lags behind what is actually happening on the field. A lot of people are still stuck on the old picture where Tampa controls the story and Carolina is just trying to grow up in the background, while the tape now shows a group that has already changed who has to answer to who. You have Bryce Young turning late downs into calm answers, a front led by Derek Brown that no longer moves backward all night, a rookie edge in Nick Scorton flashing real juice, and a rookie safety in Lathan Ransom who went from a painful flag to a season-shifting interception that shut the door on Tampa. Wikipedia. Add in a young core of weapons growing up around them, and you get a team that does not play like a rebuild. It plays like a problem you do not want to see when your own season is on the line. That is the part almost nobody wants to admit yet, because once you say it out loud, the whole way you talk about the Panthers has to change. This is not just a scrappy defense and a plucky offense trying to hang on. This is a season that now runs through how far Bryce Young can push this new identity. Every time he steps into the huddle, he is not just managing the game, he is steering the whole direction of the franchise, snap by snap. The question now is simple and heavy at the same time. How did Bryce Young go from a young passer under constant doubt to the engine that makes this entire offense believe it can take the division right now? But before we jump into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Panthers and all the NFL content. Can we get 100 likes on this video? Defenses finally decided they were done letting Carolina live on handoffs, and that is when everything shifted onto Bryce Young. Early in the season, those nights where Rico Dowdle exploded and Chuba Hubbard kept slamming into tired fronts made life simple, boxes loosened, and the quarterback could just guide the game. That tape is burned into every coordinator's mind now, so fronts are crashing the line, safeties are flying downhill, and the easy run call is not flipping momentum anymore. Instead of waiting for the ground game to magically return, Bryce Young has been forced to live in obvious passing situations, with the whole stadium knowing the ball is leaving his hand and judging him on every snap. That kind of pressure usually exposes a young passer, but for Bryce Young, it has turned into proof that he is ready to own this offense. Over his recent stretch, he has thrown 10 touchdown passes to only 2 interceptions, and those numbers come from tight pockets and heavy blitz calls, not clean 7-step drops on calm Sundays. You see him slide inside rush instead of spinning into hits, reset his feet, and fire into small windows on third down like it is routine. In New Orleans, he ended up leading the team in rushing when the backs were bottled up, keeping drives alive with smart scrambles when the play call was already broken. Against those attack-minded defenses that love to bring extra rushers, he looks like someone who has stopped worrying about mistakes and started trusting his own answers in real time. The more Bryce Young leans into that mindset, the more the entire structure of Carolina's offense changes around him. Dave Canales can call deeper concepts on 3rd and long because he believes his quarterback will make the right decision instead of folding. The line knows that if they give him even a sliver of space, he will turn it into something. And the huddle feels different when Bryce Young walks in already expecting to win the down. That confidence has opened the door for his main weapons to grow into something bigger than just names on the depth chart. Because when the quarterback keeps attacking, players like Tetaroa McMillan, Jalen Coker, and JT Sanders get the chance to turn tight throws into game-changing moments. And that is where the real secret of this passing game starts to show itself. Carolina did not just hand Bryce Young more passing attempts, they put a true problem on the outside and watched everything change around it. Rookie Tetaroa McMillan has stepped in and played like a longtime number 1, winning at the line, stacking corners on deep routes, and staying calm when the ball arrives with bodies all over him. He leads all rookie receivers in catches with 65 grabs and sits near the top group in yards and touchdowns. And you can feel why on every route, he runs like this snap might be the one that flips the entire night. Defenses try to lean on him, grab him, shove him off his line, and he just keeps shaking free, turning tight window throws from Bryce Young into moments that light up the sideline and the crowd. On the other side, Jalen Coker has built a very different kind of threat. He is in his second year now after arriving as an undrafted wideout, and that background shows every time he runs a route with sharp cuts and a chip on his shoulder. Third downs, boundary shots, throws that have to be perfect, that is where Jalen Coker keeps showing up, dragging his toes near the sideline or ripping the ball away in traffic when most players would brace for contact and protect themselves. Then you add Xavier Legette, the powerful former first-round pick from South Carolina who pulls safety help just by lining up, and defenses can no longer tilt all their focus toward Tyrone McMillan. Down the middle, JT Sanders brings that receiver-style skill set into the tight end spot, sliding into soft zones near the goal line and turning scramble drills into clean touchdowns when Bryce Young extends the play and points him into open space. The scary part for the rest of the NFC South is how quickly this whole room has started to think on the same wavelength. When Bryce Young checks something at the line, Tedero McMillan tweaks his release without blinking. Jalen Coker reads the leverage on the corner, Xavier Legette pulls coverage away with his vertical threat, and JT Sanders settles exactly where his quarterback can find him. One wrong step by a linebacker, one late rotation by a safety, and any of these targets can be the one that punishes it. So this passing game is no longer about one connection. It is a full menu of answers. That kind of firepower now throws the spotlight on the coaching and the big men up front, because if Dave Canales can keep the rhythm aggressive and the line can hold long enough, this group of weapons is already built to finish real playoff drives. And that is where the truth about Carolina's play calling and protection starts to get exposed. Every time Carolina breaks the huddle, you can feel the fingerprints of the play caller on what happens next. Dave Canales is not hiding in the background. He is the one deciding whether this offense attacks or drifts, and his choices have turned into a quiet roller coaster for this season. When he leans into motion, quick throws, and early down aggression, the Panthers look like a modern attack that trusts Bryce Young to control the game, ripping into space before a defense can even settle. Then there are stretches where he calls inside, runs into crowded boxes, slows the tempo, and lets defenses breathe. And in those moments, you can almost feel the energy leak out of the stadium. That swing between daring and cautious is the line Carolina is walking right now. And it is the one thing that can either unlock this young core or drag them back into the muddle. The tough truth is that even the best call on a tablet does not matter if the wall in front of Bryce Young keeps changing faces. Ikem Ekwonu fights through his own physical battles. Yosh Nijman has been asked to hold down the blind side, Damian Lewis is grinding inside, Cade Mays has to think and snap at the same time, and veterans like Austin Corbett and Taylor Moton shuffle roles so the unit can just survive each week. One Sunday, the pocket looks clean and calm, the next drive a free rusher slips through a missed communication, and the entire possession dies before a route can even develop. For a quarterback trying to play on rhythm, that means every drop back is a test in. Trust, do you hang in and let Tyrone McMillan or Jalen Coker finish their route? Or do you bail early because the last series ended with a hit you never saw coming? That is why this offense and this staff face such a clear challenge right now. They cannot ask the skill players to carry the identity while the foundation keeps cracking at random. The more Dave Canales tightens the protection rules, marries his run calls to looks that also threaten the pass, and demands clean communication from that front, the more often Bryce Young will get the kind of platform that lets his talent show up for 4 full quarters. Because once that happens, the spotlight can finally swing to the other side of the ball, where Derek Brown and a hungry front seven have built something completely different from what Carolina put on tape last year. A group that is tired of being pushed around and is now daring offenses to even try. The biggest change inside Carolina might not be the throws or the routes. It is what happens the moment an offense tries to run straight at this front. Last year, teams lined up, leaned on the Panthers, and walked out with more than 2,000 rushing yards on the board, like the line was just something to lean against on the way to big plays. This season, that picture looks completely different. Derek Brown is healthy and living in the middle, taking on double teams and knocking people backward. And when he sets that tone, everyone behind him plays faster and meaner. Offenses that expected easy yardage now find a pile of bodies in the gap, and a defense that actually enjoys those short yardage moments instead of fearing them. That attitude shows up in the other names along that front. Ashawn Robinson and Bobby Brown plug inside lanes so backs have to bounce sideways instead of charging downhill, while Christian Rozeboom times his hits from linebacker and meets them right at the line. On the edge, DJ Wanham does the dirty work that rarely makes a highlight, setting the edge, chasing from behind, and forcing ball carriers back into traffic. Then there is rookie pass rusher Nick Scorton, who brings fresh energy off the side of the formation, winning with effort and burst when the Panthers need one more play to get off the field. You can feel the confidence growing every time this group forces a second and long instead of letting a simple carry break open into a chunk run. When a defense has that kind of front, everything behind it starts to change. Safeties and corners can sit on routes because they trust Derek Brown and the linebackers to handle the run, and the whole unit can stay aggressive late in games instead of reacting. That is why you now see Carolina winning long drives in the fourth quarter, not because they are perfect, but because the first punch at the line keeps landing until an offense finally makes the mistake this group is waiting for. And once that mistake comes, it is up to the players in the secondary and the kicker to cash it in, which is where this story moves next, to the guys on the back end who have learned how to finish games when the entire stadium feels the season hanging in the air. The scariest part of this Panthers surge is what happens when the clock gets low and the ball goes in the air. That is when J.C. Horn walks up to the best wideout on the other side and turns every route into a fight, grabbing for position, leaning on timing, and making quarterbacks think twice before they even look his way. On the other side, Mike Jackson has become the corner who can take a punch early and answer late, maybe giving up a play in the first quarter, then spending the rest of the night erasing that mistake with tight coverage and smart recovery. Together, they give Carolina something the rest of the NFC South does not want to deal with. Corners who actually seem to enjoy those final drives where every snap feels like a season hanging by a thread. Behind them, the last line of defense has started to feel like a safety net instead of a panic button. Nick Scott plays like the veteran who has seen every route combo before, sliding into windows, cleaning up missed tackles, and turning what should be explosive gains into boring short catches that do not break a drive. Then you add Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker who keeps walking onto the field with the season in his hands and treating it like any other swing of the leg. When the defense bends but refuses to break, when J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson force a throw short of the sticks, it is Ryan Fitzgerald who cashes in that stand with 3 points that feel like a dagger. That blend of calm coverage and steady kicking is why long drives against Carolina so often end with the Panthers jogging to the sideline, smiling while the other team stares at the scoreboard. Even the story of rookie safety Lathan Ransom fits that late-game identity they are building. One week he walks off the field in New Orleans with a flag on his name after that hit on Tyler Shuck. The next he is dropping under a route, turning his head, and picking off Baker Mayfield to seal a win that flips the entire division race. That is what this back end has started to do, take moments that could break a young team and turn them into proof that they can finish when the whole stadium is holding its breath. And now every time they force one more stop and Ryan Fitzgerald nails another kick, the pressure shifts straight to the standings, because the real question moving forward is how this group handles the weight when the NFC South comes down to a few drives, a few kicks, and a couple of games that will decide who actually owns this division. Right now, the Carolina Panthers are living in a place most teams talk about but almost never reach. Every single week feels like a season test. You look at the standings and it sounds simple. You are 8-7, Tampa Bay is 7-8, and it looks like a small gap on paper. It is not small inside. That locker room, every meeting, every practice, every snap carries the feeling that one wrong step sends everything crashing. These players know they are one clean run of football away from a division title and a home playoff night in Charlotte for the first time since 2017. And that knowledge does not relax anyone, it tightens everything. The schedule in front of them makes that tightrope even sharper. Beat Sam Darnold and the Seattle Seahawks at home and you slam your foot on the gas. Then you watch the Miami Dolphins play Tampa and hope they finish the job. If those pieces fall into place, Carolina is not begging for help. They are walking straight into January with their own crowd behind them and the division banner tied to this late push. Let it slip against Seattle though, and the whole race gets squeezed into one brutal night in Tampa. Same stadium, same pressure, but a very different story. That would be Bryce Young staring across at Baker Mayfield with the entire year hanging on 60 minutes. Every play call, every throw, every tackle sitting under a spotlight that does not blink. That is why this stretch is about more than clinching a spot. It is about proving this team can live with that kind of weight and still play free. There is no room for soft drives or conservative thinking. Not when the NFC picture is crowded and other teams are waiting for Carolina to blink so the old order can slide back into place. Inside the building, they know this is their window. A small one, but real. And if they make it through these next games without flinching, the conversation shifts from standings and scenarios to something bigger. How a so-called young and early Carolina group stacks up against the heavy hitters across the conference who think January still belongs to them. Across the league, talk shows and predictions still treat Carolina like a nice surprise that will fade away, while the old brands keep getting the serious focus. People lean on what they remember about Tampa, about long runs with veteran groups, and they act like the Panthers are just visiting the top of the division for a moment. That is the lazy comfort zone, because admitting what is actually happening would mean admitting that a young Carolina roster is stepping into the same room as the Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks, Philadelphia Eagles, and San Francisco 49ers. The gap between what is said on camera and what is happening on the field is huge right now, and the Panthers are living right in that gap. They hear the doubt, they see the graphics, and then they walk back into a locker room that feels nothing like a team trying to steal a lucky season. If you strip away the old storylines and just look at who is playing winning football when it matters, the picture changes fast. You see Bryce Young running late drives with calm eyes, Tetairoa McMillan looking like a true number one wideout even as a rookie, Jalen Coker making sideline grabs in pressure moments, and JT Sanders turning broken plays into scores. On the other side, Derek Brown anchors a front that no longer moves backward. Ashawn Robinson, Bobby Brown, Christian Roseboom, and DJ Wanham clean up everything around him. And rookie Nick Scorton flashes real burst when the defense needs one more big swing. Behind them, J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson, Nick Scott, rookie Lathan Ransom, and Ryan Fitzgerald have already shown they can close out games that could have gone the other way. That is not the profile of a team just happy to be in the race. That is the profile of a group learning how to handle playoff-level stress before the bracket even starts. So, the real tension now is simple. Either the rest of the NFC admits what this team has become, or they wait until Carolina walks into January and forces the conversation to change in front of everyone. A home playoff night in Charlotte would not just be a reward. It would be a stage for this new identity. For Bryce Young and that young core to show that this run is the start of something, not a one-year spike. The big names in the conference can keep assuming the story will end the way it always has, but inside that Panthers locker room, the belief is already different. They know they have dragged themselves from future talk into the center of the present. And that is the part nobody wants to admit about the Carolina Panthers right now.